Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Empowered Empath Entrepreneur. This is Sabrine Minsky, and today I am joined by my friend Fran. Fran helps people to establish a deeper connection to spirit through channeling messages of hope. And she has this fairy-like but spunky energy to her that I'm sure you're going to love to connect with. Thanks so much for being here with me today, Fran.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It's always an honor. I appreciate it.
And today we're going to jump into how to live a more empowered life as an empath entrepreneur. Now, could you start by sharing a little bit of your own path as an empath and as an entrepreneur? Did the two always mesh together in your life, or was it a discovery through the years?
Well, actually, I don't think we can really separate them, but I think a lot of times, depending on what capacity we're working in, we don't understand what's happening to us. We have all these feelings and these emotions, and we don't understand what's going on. So I worked in corporate America for 25 years and always had these feelings, this knowing. And that doesn't really work in corporate America. It doesn't, because then you're considered emotional, or you're too much, you're too girly, you're being too much of a woman. And so once I began to walk in my purpose and on my path, it did mesh. It meshed really well, because as an entrepreneur, I was able to pick up on the needs of my clients or people around me. So I think being an empath is really, really a dynamic gift if we tap into that and we honor it. I think a lot of times we get scared to honor it because we don't really know or trust what we're feeling. And the more that we start to trust what we're feeling, the easier it is to get into the flow of actually using your gift.
Mm-hmm. And can you remind me and share a little bit with the audience? You come from a lineage, if I remember well, of gifted spiritual people. So how did you bridge that into, or how did you feel about toning it down, first of all, in your corporate life, and then bridging it back and embracing it when you became an entrepreneur?
Well, you know what, Spring? It was difficult in corporate and easy once I just allowed.
Mhm.
In corporate, I really had to keep it kind of hid, but um, my ancestry and my lineage is that my mother, my great grandmother, and my grandmother all had gifts of spirit. So I watched these women work, and what I called the closet spiritualists at that point. I grew up with a very diverse religious background. Grew up in one religion, and then we switched over to spirituality, where my mother began to practice outwardly once she realized what was going on with me and the fact that I needed to nourish the gift. And so growing up, watching this all my life, it seemed second nature to me. Watching my mother, help and heal people and use certain herbs and use her insight, her intuition to give people guidance was like second nature to me. So having to actually keep that in a box for a while was very difficult, because it was not, back when I was younger, it wasn't really cool to have these gifts. Like now everybody is acknowledging and digging in and reaching for that intuition that we all have. But back then, that wasn't the case. The case back then was that you were different, or you were weird, or something was wrong with you, so you kept it hid. So I am very thankful for my mother and my grandmother and my great grandmother, who practiced anyway, despite of what people were saying. So as I began to get into my journey in life and to really open up to the awareness of what an empath really meant and how it was so powerful to use that gift to not only help to help me on my path, but the direction that I was able to give to others by being able to tap into their feelings and knowing how they're feeling and what they've been through was a dynamic experience.
Hmm. And so to you, what does it mean to live an empowered life as an empath?
Well, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
So,
Step by step.
that's a loaded question. To me, what that means is that you first understand that you are never ever disconnected. Like, we are never disconnected from spirit. We are always connected. So once we begin to realize who we are and that we are always not only in tune to the universe and God and the spirit within us, but we are also in tune with that intuition that is a gift, that's part of who we are, that we're never separate from. So once you begin to reconnect to your power, you know, a lot of times we talk about empowering, but really we just need to reconnect to the power because we're already empowered. We just forget that we are. We forget sometimes that this is who I am and this is what I was put here to do. And I can never disconnect from that. Once we realize that, it gives you this sense of purpose and passion, and you begin to feel really, really good about doing what you were set forth to do. So that empowerment component is really a very broad component because we just need to repower into who we are.
So it's a remembrance of sorts, but for so many people, it's difficult to hold that remembrance inside of them and to reconnect to that power. How do you help people in doing that? What are some of the tips that you can share with our audience?
Well, the first thing is that you have to really understand that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Once we get our heads wrapped around that we are spirit first, and then we're physical. So once you understand that you are always connected, there is nothing that you can do that will disconnect you from this power that you have. Nothing. There's nothing that will disconnect you from God, your higher power, your source, whatever you choose and however you choose to identify it. There's nothing that can disconnect you from that. And then you have to spend time nourishing that relationship with spirit and with your intuition. A lot of us don't understand that it's a relationship just like any other relationship. Having a relationship with God, your higher power, your angels, with spirit is all about nourishing that relationship. And it's very personal. So I teach people how to connect, how to plug back into that sense of being who you are authentically, in your truth, stand in your truth, and being the best you that you can be. Because once you become the best you that you can be, your intuition, that empathic ability is going to just begin to flow from you because you understand that this is just my nature. It's not something you have to go buy. It's not something you have to go study and you have to really dig for. What you have to do is come back into the awareness of who you are. And once you do that, it begins to flow. And it is really a wonderful feeling. There's such a feeling of peace that comes from operating in your gifts.
Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of empaths will start off their life journey in a position which often holds the energy of victim. And how do you help them bridge from that energy of people are taking from me my energy or my gifts, etc., into, whoa, no, I'm in charge of all this, and to really start recognizing it as a gift in all of its power and beauty.
I love that question too. I love that question. Okay, so I think that the victim mentality comes from that feeling that you're drawing in from other people. So whether you're empathic or you're intuitive, you have a gift of discernment, you're a healer, you're always expelling energy into the universe. So you're always giving, first of all. The first step in not feeling like victim is to give back to yourself. So sometimes you have to step away. You have to step away and re-nourish you. And you do that by finding your place in silence, or finding your special core place. For me, that's by the water. After I work for so long, I have to take a vacation. I have got to get away, even if it's for 3 or 4 days, because that's the way that I nourish myself. As an empath, I also stay before God, and I stay in that prayer space of protecting myself with the white light, asking for protection, asking my angels to go before me, asking them to guide me and lead me, but to also be a shield, so that when I'm done performing the work that I'm doing, that I can dismiss that energy. You also have to understand that when you are operating in that kind of gift, it should be a natural flow of ebb and flow. So you should be giving as well as receiving. A lot of times you may not be receiving from those that you're working on or that you're working with. So therefore, you have to find a way to replenish, because if you don't, then you don't have anything to give. A lot of times when people are early in the development stages of learning how to use their gift, they do feel like the victim, because you feel like, I'm exhausted. I have nothing else to give. And that comes from not knowing how to protect yourself. You should never do any spiritual work without having your armor on, as my mother used to call it. My mother used to say, you got to put your armor on, you know? And if you don't have yourself protected, then you're open not only to the energy of the person that you're working on, but if there's some negative energy there, or if there's a negative vibration there, you're open to receiving all of that. So it's very important that you protect your mind, body, and spirit daily, not just when you're working, but daily, because as an empath, you're walking through the world. Those things that need light, you're shining your light through the darkness, right? So those things, people and places that need light are going to immediately attach to you, because they need that light. They need what you have. So you've got to really take care of yourself. It's very, very important. And I'm not talking about the taking care of yourself, going to work out, and I got to work out and be fit. And that's great too. But you've got to take care of the spirit. You've got to take care of what you're giving out, making sure that it is being replenished.
Yeah. So basically, we have 3 sources from which we can nourish ourselves, which are others, ourself, and source.
Yes.
And which one do you feel empaths have the most trouble accepting?
Others.
I was hoping you were going to say that. I was just having a conversation today with a client about this, this broken record within most of us empaths and healers or intuitives, etc., about receiving and the different forms that it can take. And one form that too many people, especially when they're in the beginning stages, are so uncomfortable with still, which is money. I'd love to hear you on that.
Oh, God. Okay.
You did not see her, but Fran was shaking her head on it first.
Let's talk about money. So money is an energy. Okay. So with me, it was difficult at first to charge my rates, because I came from doing this in church. So in church, it's your gift and you give it. You give it. And it took me a lot of study and a lot of prayer and a lot of coaching myself with a business coach to really understand the concept and the energy of money. So when you are giving a service and you're receiving your pay, that is an energy exchange. And it is your gift, but you can also be the best insurance broker in the world, but you're not going to go to work and work for free, because that is your gift. Once you take this on as your business, as your job, as your career, then you are being paid for your time, not necessarily your gift, but you're being paid for your time. And I learned that through the process of building a business, people appreciate what they pay for. If you don't pay for it, you really don't have the appreciation of it. And also in accepting the money, it is showing the value that you have, not only for yourself, but for me as the provider. You value what I bring, and you value yourself enough to invest in it. So it helps a lot of clients to understand that this is an investment in yourself. This is an investment in you. It's not, it's an investment in you, it's an investment in us, and it's an investment in the work that you will do going forward. And if you cannot accept money in exchange for your services, then you have a bigger issue, which is a work issue, which is what I suffered with, knowing my worth, understanding that I was worthy of this. And once I understood that I was worthy of it, I had no problem accepting it. No problem at all.
Thanks for rephrasing it around our own worth. I think that's so important. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the biggest tools for empowerment, really.
Yes, I agree. I
Which,
agree.
Maybe there's a part also of unplugging from the unconscious collective, which you hinted to in some of the roots around our gifts not being valued through money, but through other means and sources. I don't know if there's anything we could do for our audience around that part of the unconscious collective. Does anything come up?
Well, the thing of it is the biggest thing is that the biggest thing that I would say to our audience, and I would want them to remember, is that not only is there a conscious collective, but there is we consciously create. We consciously create, or we create by default. So if you are creating lack, I'm not worthy, I shouldn't be charging for this, on and on and on and on, those are seeds that you are planting, and they're growing. So you have to be consciously aware of how you're connecting to the conscious collective, as well as what you are putting in your own conscious and into the universe. So important. It's so important. And I think sometimes we forget that. I think we just start talking and start thinking and saying stuff, and then, we are like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have said that. Oh my goodness. You have to be aware of what you're thinking, because you're creating constantly.
Thank you for that perspective. I think it's so important. And it also goes back to one of our gifts as empaths, is to put ourselves in other people's shoes too easily, and going into that divining of what they'll be thinking of us. But if they're stuck in the conscious collective, it's funny, I call it the unconscious collective.
Really, that's what it is, right?
But so how can we help people in disconnecting from that, bouncing into the client or the possible client's mind and energy?
Again, to me, it's very important to stay protected. I have clients who ask me all the time, if someone comes to me for a session or a clarity session, or they want to know what the angels want them to know, I don't have to go into a long spiel of let's meditate and let's pray and let's be silent for a while. I can just tap into spirit and speak. And I have people ask me all the time, how do you stay so connected? How do you do that? I do that by being conscious of the time I spend practicing my craft, my purpose. So what you put in your mind is going to come out your mouth. There is no way around it. If you watch junk TV, you're going to say junk stuff. If you listen to a lot of music, music is perfect. I love music more than I love TV. And music carries a vibration. So if you listen to a lot of sad music, eventually you're going to be sad. Listen to a lot of happy music, you're going to be happy. Whatever you put into your mind is going to manifest in your life, because eventually it's going to become your constant thought and it's going to become your words. It's really important when you want to disconnect from the norm, is what I call it, from what everybody else is thinking or what everybody else is feeling, is to create your own feeling place. What do you want? What do you want to think about? Start putting those things in your mind, whether that's a summit like this, whether it's listening to a podcast or watching a YouTube video or writing and reading. Those are the things that you want to focus on, because those are the things that are going to help you manifest the life you want. If you stay in mainstream and you're doing what everybody else is doing, and if that's working for you, great. But if it's not, then you need to seek and try something different. Remember that thoughts are things and words have power. Whatever you put in your mind is going to come out your mouth, and it's going to manifest in your life.
We build ourselves up or we build ourselves down.
Absolutely. And you know the famous quote that sometimes elevation requires separation. When I was first starting in my purpose and opening my business and really operating in my empathic gift and my intuitive gift and my prophecy gifts, I spent a lot of time alone. I would get my children off to school and I would go into my prayer space and I would sit and I would just listen. I would read. And my friends started to change. My thoughts started to change. But my life also started to change. And the things that I really, truly wanted to do, I began to focus on those things. Not getting caught up in the hows, the whens, and the whys, but focus on helping people. I really wanted to help women become stronger in spirit. I wanted women to understand their gifts and to use their gifts. And by spending time alone and really understanding my gifts and who I was, begin to attract people that needed what I had to me. So sometimes you have to, you can still be very normal. I'm very, very normal. I do lots of normal things. But in the process of getting to where I needed to be, I spent a lot of time alone.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that space to tune in, it might look like a cliche, but it is so essential.
Oh, so important.
We're so tuned in to all that is around us to a degree and an amount that most people can't even fathom. And we're not allowing ourselves to disconnect. It's crazy.
The phone's always in your hand. The computer's always in your hand. I remember when I was in corporate, the first thing I did in the morning was I got up and turned on the news. First thing in the morning, not getting up and saying thank you or reading my word, or I turned on the news, see what the stock market was, see what the weather was. And my whole day was funneled around busyness, just being busy, being busy, being busy. But also in that space of working in corporate America, I was always saying, one day I'm going to work for myself. I'm not going to miss on my daughter's activities. I'm going to be able to make my own schedule. And I was speaking those things, not understanding at that point the power of my words, not understanding that I was creating my life, but because I was so busy and caught up in the busyness. If you never take time to disconnect for even an hour a day, even 5 minutes, you will never know how powerful that disconnection is. It is huge. It's huge.
And discover how powerful you are as a result.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. You're right.
And you have a gift for our audience to help them with exactly that. Could you tell us a little bit more about it?
Well, I have a gift of discernment, so I am, and I receive. I always stutter when I talk about this, but I don't know why, because I don't like talking about myself. I think that's it. But Um, I receive information and guidance from the angels and the Holy Spirit, and I use that information that is downloaded to me to help people that come to me that need clarity about life or business or spirituality or love or whatever it is that they need clarity around. And I listen to what the angels are giving me, and I give them that information. Some people come to me with questions and they never even have to ask their questions because the angels give them the information. I want to help women and people in general understand that the divine source flows through all of us. Like, we all have that gift of hearing and knowing and creating and manifesting our lives. The key is that there's steps you have to take and there's things that you have to do, which is known in the spirit world as the work. You know, you hear people always say, you have to do the work, but nobody really tells you what that work is. Nobody really takes time to say, well, this is what you need to do, or this is how you need to do it. And that's what I do. I take people through the steps to create, recreate, connect, reconnect, to move forward. So I help people get from where they are to where they want to be. And it's not a long process. And it's not a process where you become dependent on me. It's a process where you become dependent on yourself and your own gifts to tune in and create the things that you desire.
Mm-hmm. And our audience will be able to get a taste of this through your gift, How to Live an Empowered Life.
Yes, absolutely.
And can you tell us a little bit more about what you'll be sharing in that?
In the podcast that I am giving, it actually comes from a series that I taught for over 350 women live, and then numerous women have come back and gotten the broadcast. What I teach in that is how you actually connect, stay connected, how you intentionally live your life, and how you manifest and create by simply knowing what it is you want. So it helps you to understand who you are, but it also helps you understand what you want in this life. If you don't know what you want, you will never get what you want. So there's stages that go through the podcast that actually help you identify and give you a sense of knowing. When you're done with it, you know that, okay, these are the steps I need to take, and this is what I need to do. Sometimes people tweak those steps. Instead of doing 1, 2, 3, they may do 1, 3, and 5. Whatever works for you to help you get to where you need to be. And that's what that podcast class was all about.
Fantastic, Fran.
Thank you
so much for connecting with us today. You've shared so many wonderful insights and a call to really go into that space of silence and power, and the two interfeed each other. It's really been wonderful.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It's always wonderful to talk to you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.